Hey family, what is up and welcome to my Hey family, my name is Consolata and welcome to part 2 of a series we are calling The Sex Manual, where we're talking all things sex, purity, celibacy, everything sex related. So today I'm really excited. We're going to be talking about sleepovers and cohabiting. Like, what's God's standpoint about sleepovers and cohabiting, one, and what has study shown over the past years as to the implications of sleepovers and cohabiting. Okay, wait, before I start, have you ever actually said the statement, friend, it's a sleepover? I know you probably have, but hey, let's move on. So what is cohabiting? According to the Collins Dictionary, it says when people are living together and have a sexual relationship but are not married. Then the Thesaurus Dictionary says to live together as if married, usually without legal or religious sanction. Like I said earlier in the first part, personally, like I had to write things down so that I'll be able to remember. So here is my research, and I actually wrote a few of my stories which I hope will inspire you, right? So here's the story of something that actually happened to me. So I had a boyfriend that really worked hard. He had these amazing dreams and ambitions. After listening to several sermons about submission, I wanted to start submitting to my boyfriend even before we got married, right? I wanted to be his helper, to help my man before he got married, right? To give him a pampering for all of his hard work, I decided to take him to an Airbnb, a lodge sort of. And if you're in Zimbabwe, you know Airbnbs are at least from $25 going up. Like 25 is actually the least nowadays, right? They are expensive. Therefore, we had to stay in the same room. Like I couldn't be like $30 for you and $30 for me, my in-suit, and he's like, honestly, yeah, no. So I even found an in-suit so that we wouldn't have trouble going in and out, you know, to go to the bathroom and coming back and things like that, right? So that we had the most wonderful time. As a wife in training, hallelujah church, a wife in training, I bought food that I was going to cook throughout the trip, e.g. rice, potatoes, beef, chicken, and salads. Like, girl, I was ready. Like, I was really ready for this. I was prepared, and if you know me, I prepare. I plan, strategic planning. You know what I mean? And you know that also, unless I'm in love, I actually don't like cooking. I know my mom would be like, nah, you should learn how to cook. Of course I will, but honestly, the passion and desire only comes when I'm in love. So I was really in love at that moment, at that time. I even got us playing cards so that we'd balance rest, games, and play as well as sleep. Right? I even got a binge series for us to watch, because like I've always been a binge watcher, and my boyfriend as well, but then he watched like sci-fi movies, but I was willing to binge watch a sci-fi movie. I think it was like Platinum, or I don't know which series it was, but I know it's a metal's name, Zinket. I don't know which year it was. Okay, my point being, look, I was prepared. He was going to have the best weekend of his life. I cooked, I did dishes, did his laundry. Yeah, I did his laundry, and sometimes I even ironed his clothes. This was a major mistake that I made. To make it extra though, I actually gave him a head, back, foot massage as well. Like, I was that trophy girlfriend, guys, in my opinion, obviously. And I know that I'm not the only one that has actually done this. So many ladies or so many guys have actually allowed their girlfriends to do their laundry for them, to be an acting wife, like to be their wife before they're their wives. And we definitely did feel the conviction within ourselves that this was the right thing to do. But what difference is it between the single and the married? If you're already cooking for him, doing his laundry, giving him massages, and maybe scrubbing his back while you bath together, like what difference is this? And now let's take a closer look at what the married couples do, and also what people that are cohabiting or constantly have sleepovers that are spilling into 2 or more days, like what difference is there. Now let's take a closer look at what a married couple does. Like, this is a simple routine that I made out of my own mind of what a married couple would do together. So they would wake up with the morning kiss, like, hey baby, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, let's get it going. They would put bathing water or heat bathing water for one another. They would bath together. Like, babe, can you scrub my back? Honestly, while I'm in the middle of this, I'm literally just imagining my mom watching this video, or my relatives like, girl, where did she learn all this stuff? But that's what I think. Well, they would serve breakfast and eat together. Like, you would probably serve your men, or your men would serve you, and then you'd eat together. Pack lunch for one another. Drop each other off at work. Like, usually people are gonna drive the same car to work and just drop whether the boyfriend first and then you proceed with your journey, or the girlfriend is dropped off and then you proceed with your journey. Then on your way back from work, you also pick up your boyfriend or girlfriend and go back home. Well, before we even get to that, they call or text each other throughout the day. Then they have an after work bath, they cook supper, serve supper and eat together, preferably on a couch or even chairs, or on the floor if you don't have anything yet. They watch or listen to something, like, let's catch up on the newest episode of Generations, Mufango Scandal, you know, why women kill, or Tinder Swindler, which is the most recent movie that's trending, right? They iron clothes that we left to dry earlier. They prepare for the next day. Then they sleep beside each other on the bed, maybe with, you know, arms wrapped around each other. Like, babe, you know, I just want to cuddle. It's one of those things that married people do. You know, their bodies called into each other. Now, when you go together on vacation in shared rooms, or stay together outside of the covenant of marriage, what is the difference then between you that are cohabiting or have gone out together in a shared room on vacation? What difference is there between you and those that are married, right? What people who are cohabiting and those that are married do is basically the same thing. The Bible says in Genesis chapter 2 verse 24, for this reason, that is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. Now, if you refer to the first video of this series, we actually talked about what being one flesh means, which is a unity of body, soul, and spirit. Now, if you've left your parents' house, right, and are living with a man or a woman, whether the bride price has been paid or not, whether there's been a white wedding or not, and are having sex, you're automatically married. You've become one flesh. And Oxford definitions describe one flesh as spiritual and physical union of two people in a relationship, especially marriage. Your body is theirs and theirs is yours, which means you are basically married. You've become one flesh. Now, let's be honest, maybe 1 in 100 people will actually cohabit or live together and not have sex. Like, guys, you're going to have sex. Maybe initially you just be like, no, I don't want to do this and stuff, but eventually you're gonna fall into the temptation. Like, you're not gonna be able to combat temptation when you're sleeping beside this guy on the same bed every single day, like even for a month. Like, a month is a very long time. Like I said, 1 in 100 people are able to do that. I'm not saying there are people that can do it, but they can. There are people that can do it, but very, very few people can. Now, the habit of cohabitation is an increasing phenomenon in society. Like, culture has actually approved of it. In most movies that we watch on Netflix, we realize that they advertise or advocate for moving in. Like, I'm moving in with my boyfriend. Would you like to move in before marriage? It is usually seen as a trial and error period that tests the compatibility between partners, whether they will be compatible for marriage or not. Although it has become socially acceptable, it contradicts most fundamentals of Christianity, right? Women are likely to view cohabitation as a step toward marriage, while men are more likely to see it as a way to test the compatibility or postpone commitment. If we're to be honest, men don't really like to be committed. So this is their way of saying, okay, I don't want to fully give myself to you, but I just kind of want to benefit from this relationship. So one thing men and women agree on is that their standards for a live-in partner are lower than those of a spouse. Like, though we may be cohabiting together, but I don't expect you to pay my fees, to get my hair done and things like that, because we're officially not married. So definitely there is low commitment. And usually when we slide into cohabitation, we don't actually see a problem with it. Sliding into cohabitation is so easy, but going out of it is never actually easy. You just get so comfortable with staying with the other person. Like, there are so many advantages that people see of cohabiting, which involve that it's low cost. Like, if you're going to use the same car to work, we're definitely cutting costs as compared to if you were using your car and I was using mine. And all of this only sums up when you find out years later that you're not actually able to live, because now everyone knows Consolata is dating Luke, and everyone knows Luke. Basically, even your boss knows Luke is gonna come pick you up, but Luke actually wants to move on. But now, because everyone knows you guys are a thing, sometimes it's actually difficult. That on its own is a difficult situation where you have to explain yourself to many people as to why you're no longer staying together. So in the end, people just say, okay, let's continue to stay together, right? It's like signing up for a credit card with 0% interest. At the end of 12 months, when the interest goes up to 25%, you feel stuck because the balance is too high to pay off. In fact, cohabitation can be exactly like that. In behavioral economics, it's called consumer lock-in. You're literally locked in there. Like, you have invested so much into each other. You bought the couch together, the TV together, the kitchen set up together, the shoe rack together, and now how are you going to distribute the things amongst yourselves? So you just find yourself falling back into that trap. So lock-in is the decreased likelihood to search for or change to another option once an investment in something has been made. The greater the setup cost, the less likely we are to move on to another even better situation, especially when faced with switching costs or the time, money and effort it requires to change. It's comfortable to cohabit, like absolutely comfortable to cohabit. That's what we're just saying. And many Christians do not have adequate knowledge on so many topics such as cohabiting, and so many times we submit to peer pressure because the next person is doing it. We think it's the principal thing to do. I've actually seen pastors or people in religious positions move in with their boyfriends or girlfriends just to satisfy their own desires, and some of the crowd is also pulled in and begins to do the same. After all, we live in a world where television programs have promoted it. It has commercialized and made it the principal thing to do. Hollywood glamorizes it, and parents tolerate it, and churches actually ignore things such as cohabiting. Many believers try to reconcile their lifestyle of free sex and cohabitation with the Christian faith. It is usually done by justifying and rationalizing it, like, no, God is patient towards me. Of course God is patient. There is grace for every single day. Like, God is so gracious. But we also remember that we continue to work out our own salvation. Like, though we've been saved by believing in our hearts and confessing with our mouths that Jesus Christ is Lord, but we also acknowledge that we can't keep sinning knowingly. Like, we've got to strive to be better. We've got to strive to do what God desires for our lives. Such behavior boils down to a disregard of the third commandment, which says, do not use the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not let you misuse his name. Exodus 20 verse 7, right? He explains that when we claim God's approval about something that is clearly not His will, or when we claim His direction for something that is of our own making, we actually misrepresent Him and take His name in vain. And I don't think that is the point from which we should be operating, where we are misusing God's name and saying, God told me, the Spirit of the Lord ministered to me. No. The Spirit of the Lord, my dear, is not going to tell you to cohabit or to have sex with someone's husband or someone's wife or to have incest. No, there is no such spirit. Like, it is not the Spirit of God. Don't try to say, God told me this. No. Do not use the name of the Lord in vain. God is a God of order. He is a man of His word. He sticks to His word, and it's not going to change it just to suit you. No, you are the one that chooses according to your own mind, your own reasoning, but leave God out of it. In this chapter, we are taking a look at cohabitation from both a spiritual and legal or research perspective, and Anne-Marie Ambert made a study of the results of many research papers that examined the social, emotional, and financial effects of cohabitation and marriage on men, women, children, and society. And here are some of the findings. Like I told you, girl did some research, okay? So, outcomes of cohabiting before marriage. Some individuals choose cohabitation because it does not require sexual fidelity. Evidence indicates that the experience of a less committed cohabitation shapes subsequent marital behavior. Some individuals choose cohabitation because it does not require sexual fidelity. Because, well, I can sleep with Tom and Jerry and still be affiliated with Luke, be cohabiting with Luke, and Luke doesn't have a say about it. But however, this evidence indicates that experience of a less committed cohabitation shapes subsequent marital behavior. If I had multiple partners before marriage while we were cohabiting, then it's most probable that even after marriage, I will continue to want to seek satisfaction outside of the confines of my marriage, right? Some couples continue to live their marriage through the perspective of insecurity, lack of pooling of resources, low commitment level, and even lack of fidelity of their prior cohabitation, right? Like, you always feel insecure, like, why is Luke is my example. Why is Luke going outside to find other girls whilst I'm here? So it plants seeds of insecurity. You begin to feel like you're not enough. You're not giving him enough reason to stay in that relationship with you. Married couples that previously lived together are less faithful in their sexual lives, and the lack of fidelity is known to be a factor leading to higher rates of marriage breakdown. Divorce always is a result of infidelity. It may spill from financial problems, but eventually when there's infidelity, chances that that marriage will actually survive are very slim. Married couples that cohabited had less positive problem-solving behaviors and were, on average, less supportive of each other than those who had not cohabited. Honestly, if you're cohabiting and we don't have that covenant of marriage, right? I truly can just go out, like slam the door and leave the house as soon as we start having an argument. Unlike if you have not cohabited before, like you have to sit down and say, okay, so babe, I'm sorry, I thought this is how you felt, but I'm sorry, I assumed. Like, you actually talk about things, you solve your problems. So if you're cohabiting before marriage, like, I don't owe you anything, bro. I'm just gonna move out. I'm just gonna leave and come back maybe at like 11 p.m. or 2 a.m. in the morning, because I don't actually owe you anything, right? Couples who cohabited before marriage have higher rates of premarital violence than those who had not lived together. This premarital violence then leads to higher rate of marital divorce, of marital violence, another factor that's related to violence. Yes, indeed, domestic violence actually comes as a result of this. Those who cohabit are generally more approving of divorce as a solution to marital problems. If we marry each other first before living together, then we are gonna sit down and solve problems. Like, divorce is not a solution. Like, we are trying to have a purpose-filled marriage. I'm not just gonna quit on you today, but I'm gonna be like, no, I will wait on the Lord. I will work on my marriage. I will pray, go to the mountains and make this work. Couples who cohabit are less religious than those who marry without prior cohabitation. Like, whatever your religion is, Muslim, Christian, Judaism, Buddhism, this applies across all religions. There are several studies that indicate a correlation between religiosity and marital happiness as well as stability. Now, a propensity to cohabit soon after starting a romantic relationship leads to a pattern of instability. People who go through a series of de facto relationships are more likely to contract quick marriages, which are harder to remain faithful to. Sometimes you just find out you're now pregnant and then you have to get married to this person because you're now pregnant, not necessarily because you actually want to get married to that person or are ready to get married to that person. This leads to so much bitterness and, endless results of what could go wrong. A risk factor with cohabitation is its unstable nature. Most unions actually dissolve within 5 years. Let us move on, baby. Now, outcomes of cohabiting without legal marriage. For children, cohabitation means a greater risk of living within an unstable family structure, especially when their mothers cohabits with a man who is not their father. Such children have lower school performance and more behavioral problems. So you see how that spills into the people that we love, how it affects everyone around us. It really does. To the most negative, hey? Now, cohabitation actually affects the mother's capacity to give adequate attention to children and contributes to general neglect. The mother's partner is not likely to compensate for this deficiency because this attachment to the children is often low. In cohabiting relationship, physical abuse is also most likely to happen to children, right? They are most likely to be injured or killed by their mother's live-in boyfriend than in biological families, right? Girls, for their part, are at a high risk of being sexually abused. If you're to bring a man who you're cohabiting with, like, you can literally abuse your children and you won't have a say about it because, well, they're cohabiting, and you don't know that when you go to the bathroom and come back, if your child hasn't been raped, the rapist will actually instill fear in your child that your child will never tell you, but you realize that their confidence dwindles. They don't speak as much as they used to. They are not explorative as they used to be. But all this happens like that. So commitment and stability are at the core of a child's needs. Yet in a great proportion of cohabitations, these two requirements are actually absent, which are commitment and stability. So it's very important even for your children. At the end of the study, Ambed noted that many people maintain that marriage is merely a matter of lifestyle choice and it is equivalent to cohabitation. But most research rejects this point of view. Marriage is in fact a benefit for both spouses and children. Cohabitants do not always want to hear the truth because the truth hurts, child. The truth hurts, but it never hurts like a lie. Sin always causes pain and misery. Sin and disobedience to God's principles are not overcome by good argumentation or logic. Sin is an adventure on its own. It has its own fascination and stubbornness that ignores all good argumentation, logic, and truth. And to be honest, sin is thrilling. Like, there is nothing as exciting as sinning. Like, sins make you happy. Like, you feel like you have a sugar rush. You're just so excited. So if you're not one who is necessarily cohabiting but constantly going to sleepovers, you might think you're exempt. But no, honey, you are not exempt. Take a look at how you start by leaving your earrings, then your shirt, then your underwear, finally your toothbrush. You've basically moved in. You are basically cohabiting, just not on an everyday basis, but every weekend basis. If you're at your boyfriend's place every weekend, babe, you are cohabiting. You even share toothbrushes and towels. Toothbrush, like your gums, they are there and you're sharing. So what is the difference then between you who are cohabiting or having sleepovers and those that are actually married? So yeah, practical ways that I've found, effective for myself to avoid cohabiting. If possible and conducive, stay with your parents till marriage and observe curfews. Like, if it wasn't that I work very far away from home and also kind of wanting my independence, because then sometimes I create at night, I would definitely stay at home. Like, stay at home if you can until marriage. Observe curfews, like also get home at least before 8, or let your parents know that you're not coming back home. If you're staying alone, establish a no opposite sex visits principle that you'll stick to. Like, I actually told my landlord when I moved in that I will not be bringing men here, just to set the record straight. Like, I am not, if I do it, maybe it's elsewhere, but at least I've tried to combat it, to reduce the risk by saying no men principle in my house. Like, no man is going to come for a sleepover in my house. Have dates during the day and in open and public places. Know why you're doing it, which should satisfy God. To die to self daily is the most rewarding thing, knowing that God approves of what you're actually doing. Be laser focused. Remember your purpose. Remember that you're created for more. You are called for more. God has so much in store for you, but so much of that comes from a place of obedience. If you obey, there will be a reward. Your why will keep you grounded. Have accountabilities whom you can call when you feel tempted, who remind you of your why. Have you ever had a prophetic word that was spoken to you, but then you see something tempting and you kind of like, this will comfort me, or if I just sleep over, I need arms wrapped around me. But then your friend's like, no, Consolata, but the prophetic word said your husband is like this and this and this, or something like that. So that keeps you grounded on its own. At the core of this ethical problem is a personal relationship with God. One has to accept Jesus Christ as Lord and invest in a continuous relationship with God. Moral issues like cohabitation can only be addressed and conquered on this basis. Like, it's truly from a point of following God, what God desires for your life. If you've already cohabited or had multiple sleepovers, or are no longer even a virgin, it doesn't even matter. What you did 5 minutes ago, yesterday, 24, 48 hours ago, last year, does not matter. But it's so much about the redirection of God, saying, God, I need you to lead me right now, to be present with me and lead and direct my footsteps. Tell him how you feel. What leads you to want to go for sleepovers? Search within yourself. Why do you feel the need to go for sleepovers? In my case, I always felt, okay, work was difficult today, so let me have a sleepover. But there is so much risk associated with that, whether from a Christian perspective or just from an ethical perspective, right? So I want you to be vulnerable with God. Just be sensitive to God. Tell him what you're going through. Like, God, each time I have a bad day, I want a guy to hug me. I want to sleep next to, a guy. I want his arms wrapped around me. Be honest and let him know you want to do better. You want to be better. But sometimes you find yourself going back to that place. God will surely help you. And like I said, just go through these tips, and I know that we'll find ourselves in a better place. I truly hope that this series changes your life. And please do not be selfish. Share this series with someone so that their lives may totally be transformed. I love you so much. Till the next video. Bye.